So at Intellectus, we're really focused on innovating the research process. And we've came out with Intellectus Statistics, probably been 12 years. Does not use AI, but it is automating things and supporting really grew out of folks struggling with SPSS. And me as a consultant getting the same questions for a decade. And I said, there should be another way. Well, when AI came out, we were just dropping our qualitative tool. And although you can do lots of things manually with the qualitative, that we incorporated AI in a very significant fashion. The next on our kind of what is the most time-consuming things aspects was the lit review, and the lit review is going to take 20 articles, 150 articles, and in an hour really do several things and get a draft of your discussion. So let's just start banging through these one at a time, okay? And then I'll leave plenty of room for for questions at the end. So the lit review is really focusing on doing four things. The first thing it's doing is after you've uploaded your articles from a PDF, it's figuring out how to cluster them. So we're using kind of embeddings and other kinds of tools to kind of figure out, okay, not only the surface level kind of words, okay, or concepts, but other deeper structures in that. And that's what we're using to kind of figure out which articles should go together. And then we're using other statistical analyses to figure out how large those groupings should be. So we have a few little things on the front end there, which is kind of different than throwing it into a chat GPT or something. So, getting the semantics of it and then figuring out how to group them. Is that thematic clustering? Once those clusters are made, we then going into the article and developing a synthesis of those clusters or those groups. And in there, it's going to be talking about, why they're put together, but more importantly, how they build upon each other. So, or are different from each other. So that's that's what's happening in the thematic synthesis. And the automated summarization in this process really then, after each cluster, we're then going in and summarizing each of the articles. So you're turning a 20-page article into one and a half pager with top level kind of methods, results, and so forth. The final part of the lit review is really the gap analysis. And this is taking those refined clusters and the insights garnered from them and bridging them to your research questions by identifying the gap in those syntheses. So that's what's happened in the gap analysis. And I think my process is going to be to go right into that. So all of the tools are web-based, so you don't have to download it or refresh it or things of that sort. And basically, after you upload your articles, you just go to generate draft. It's a pretty simple process. Okay, so and then you name the draft. You have to enter in your research questions, question or questions. Okay, and then you simply just identify the articles that you want in that particular lit review. Some folks might be working on several different projects. So you identify the articles you want in that lit review, click them on over, click next. Okay, and then we have a little confirmation, and then give it somewhere between a half an hour to an hour, and you'll have a draft. So, and what does that draft look like? Well, the draft looks like this. We're tuning this up a little bit, but essentially there's some table of contents, all right? And then you have kind of the works within that first cluster and a title of that cluster. and then the synthesis of that cluster. Okay. And then we're going into individual articles thereafter. And then at the end, and this was from I think it was about a 20 article lit review. It, developed 64-page draft, and then there's also the references down below, an APA, and that's kind of what you get. Where we are adding one other piece to it, which is at a higher level, kind of a 10,000-foot level of here are the clusters, here's the description of that cluster, and here's the articles. That's good for if you want to condense clusters, break them further apart, move them around. So all of that would be able to be looked at a top level. Melissa, what am I missing, if anything?
I think that's it. The timing is not probably a half hour. It starts generating immediately. So in that draft section, you can watch it start generating, and then you can just download it when it's done. But other than that, no, I think you covered it. One thing is the metadata. So on the left-hand side, if you upload an article and there's a little warning sign on the 3 dots, you can just click that and make sure that all of that metadata is correct, like the author name and everything, because those are included in APA at the end of your document.
So that's right. So the tool is reading, the DOIs and this other kind of data. And if it doesn't get it quite right, or sometimes perhaps maybe don't have an abstract in there, okay, or things of that sort, it will give you that warning sign. I should have kept the warning sign there, just so I can highlight that, but okay.
Yeah, you can still click in and see what it looks like.
Yeah. So here's the data that's available. And if something's missing, this would be the place to kind of put it in. Okay. Questions about the Intellectus Lit Review tool? There's somebody in the chat. Okay. So, and maybe questions will just come to you as you're going through it. But so that's it. Simple to use. It's $8 an article to upload. You get the first 4 or 5 free or something of that sort. Okay. I'm gonna move right along here. So okay. The next thing I'll talk about is Intellectus statistics. And Intellectus, as I said, has been around for a long time now. Pre-AI kind of stuff. People always thought it was AI, but basically you can categorize, not a deep qualitative dive, but you can categorize open-ended responses and bucket those. Now I can show that. So it also auto drafts your results. What that means is once you put in the variable names into a particular test, it will draft up, it will conduct the analyses, draft up both the assumptions and the results, and with tables and figures all in APA. There's 10 additional plots to be had, and there's tons of videos and share features and lots of other things. I'm just thinking, Renee, if you have questions on the side that we can do a half hour offline or whenever you like, should you want to learn about some of the bells and whistles.
Okay.
So let's just look at what does that look like. So the Intellectus statistics. Okay, so you can well, again, web-based, you can upload data from different file formats. You can enter data manually. Okay. If you're in a research methods, teaching a research methods, there's lots of example data sets to be had. Okay. Some of them are curated to our quantitative courses. There's 70 or 80 courses. And then, or just if someone was going to be doing an analysis, I'd say, hey, gosh, you know what? Drill down into an analysis, okay, based on the test you're doing and practice with that. Just you can get your head around that. Okay. So let's just go through some of this. So let's use an example data set. I have my old friend exercise data, okay? So I have some basic data, some demographics here, times 1 and 2, conditions, fatigue level. Once you upload data, you go right into data management. You'll see, we've purposely, intentionally put lots and lots of support along this process. So for example, when you scroll over, okay, it tells you what that thing is doing, all right? But most of folks are doing kind of variable calculators, and I would say, average time, simple. Also helpful, you'll see the icons for nominal, ordinal, scale throughout. So you cannot be putting in the wrong level of measurement into a test or into a different function. You can see that's averaging. And you have your new variable there. The other key thing in data management, and a lot of them are really important, but the downloading of your managed data, once I've added a new variable, well, gosh, I want to make sure that I have that in my data set on my desktop. I guess it's superstition from 30 years ago when computers used to crash. These are all held on Amazon servers that are backed up, but I also like to have my data on my desktop. 10 different plots that I mentioned, really simple to use. I can plot some of this data. I can group it, line or bar. Video tutorials at every step for each of the data management, each of the plots, each of the analysis, video tutorials there. You can also get to the video tutorials up here in the question mark, which I'll get to in a second. And here you can kind of see our 3 variables, okay, by males and females. You can do things like add data labels. You can export it in numerous ways, okay? Edit the variable names and so forth, like the title of the plot, which would be under labels. So and so forth. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention there, in addition to the videos, is again those levels of measurement icons. Okay, these are necessary skills prior to doing anything. You need those levels of measurement, and knowing what an IV and DV are, you're gonna need that too. But those are going to be some key support along the way. Under the analysis, we really, these are all backed by R packages. So what that means is that it's not AI. It's not like, is that right or not? They're all absolutely 100% correct. So, and you can do things from descriptives down to, well, let's go through it. There's correlations, proportions, z-tests, typical t-tests, typical ANOVAs, mixed models, ANOVAs, MANOVAs, common regressions, chi-squares, other common non-parametrics, SEM, and then, which I worked for like in 2 hours on yesterday, tons of mediations, oops, wrong one. Tons of mediations, moderations, where the Preacher and Hayes is kind of, I guess, overtaken Barron and Kenny from whatever it was, 1986. And typically had I believe you had load that in to SPSS. Now we just have the models sitting here ready for you. And they're very simple to use by putting in, I'll just run one. Again, notice the icons. Notice the icons. Okay. Notice the video tutorial. I mean, if you ran this in SPSS, it would take you 10 minutes, okay? Because you would have to find, well, what are the assumptions of these regressions? Here we preload the normality assumption, identify the assumption. We also have a nice scroll over to help interpret that. We'll get AI on that at some point soon. Homoscedasticity, again, scrollovers, multicollinearity, and explaining what that is. Hey, gosh, these are correlations among your variables. And if it's over 5 or 10, that's a problem. Outlier analysis, and have a conversation about that. And then the results are in plain English. So this is kind of like, hey, now I can start editing this and getting my brain into this. It's all referenced. And the main, well, there's a couple of cool things here. One is, it's when that interaction is significant, okay, that moderation is supported. So, and here, this is the key to that whole, okay, that the whole ball of wax here. The interaction between time 1 and time 2 was significant, indicating as time 2 increases, the effect of time 1 and distance weakens, okay? And then a plot of that, basically, this is our IV and DV, and here time 2 is just dichotomized, and you can see what's happening as time 1 increases, okay? The distance of the low is going at a slower rate in terms of or less distance, okay? Other basic things, descriptives. You should know that all these things, so Renee and Darren, I guess you're in my brain now. Just to know that under the options, there's different options to be had here. We have default options, which carry the day a lot, but know that they're there. Let's just do condition. Should also know that you can split by variables or cross tab by variables.
So if I could ask a question.
Please.
Once you have I've run a few of the different charts myself in the in this
Like
actually,
this? Yeah.
yeah, in the quantitative. Once you have a chart run, or a data set analyzed, and it puts out really nice histograms or plots, how do you then download that into a format? Will that be part of what you're going to cover here today?
I wasn't going to, but I will now. So once I export this into the analysis, the first one takes a second, and then the other ones come shortly thereafter. Download that. Okay. So simply, you can just go right here to download document. And in that downloaded document, so there's a few things going on here. One, you can hyperlink to the test. The results you can see are, laid out by assumptions, typical protocol, and then the results. At the moment, these things are not editable. So the time that, well, two things, one, when you run those plots, just edit them the best you can there. These are, they're APA in terms of the bolding number and then the italicized name and so forth. But, I don't want to say we're the end all. I love Excel plots, which you can just throw right into here. Okay, so to duplicate that plot, should you want to do that.
Okay, so I think I missed the download button. I don't quite
Okay.
see it on my end.
Yep, right here.
All right.
Can you see it down there?
I see it on yours. I don't see it on my screen.
Yeah, lower right. You may have your screen too big for this, too small for this. No, it's still there. Okay. Okay, but that lower right. There's also another download over here, okay, on the upper right. With that, okay.
Renee, are you looking in the analysis tab or in the plots?
I am in the plots.
Okay, it's in a different spot in the plots if you want to open that up, Jim.
And here it's under export.
Got it.
And you can
Thank you.
download to a Word doc or here. Thank you for
Simple.
that
Apologies. Thank you.
Yep. Well, no, I didn't think oh, you're in a different place, but you mentioned plots though, okay. And then in the analysis, then it's upper right, okay, or lower. The other cool thing going on here, which I'll mention, oh, two things. Let me get to the most important thing. So here I have a project and we ran tons of descriptives and regressions and mediations, but then we went to the discussion, and the discussion draft does take a few minutes, but it does start instantaneously. Goes through kind of an intro. Let me group these findings. That's really important when you have tons of findings. You know, what sense can I make of all of this in one kind of glance? So, key findings. Several of the findings emerged, okay, and they're starting to group these things. So this is a really cool thing to have. You should obviously double check it, compare your output with the discussion draft, but this is a game changer. To me, you know, this is a 15-hour job. And then to start to organize that. Theoretical implications. Here we're really, the AI goes out into the literature, or into the what's published out there, okay, and starts to tie your particular findings with the literature. So that's really cool. Practical implications, some which you may have thought of, some which you had not thought of, okay. Limitations of your study, particularly if you had, you know, one time frame, you had small sample size, things of that sort. Future research directions, conclusion, references, you got to double check these. The DOI could be off, the title could be off, the whole thing. I mean, they're getting better and better by the day, but, you know, still expect, you know, 5 or 10% to be off. If Bardone and Cohn were mentioned in the limitations or future directions, for example, you can still look for another article, okay, that captures that. So don't be disheartened that, hey, gosh, that doesn't exist. Well, that thought is still a good thought, and look to see if there's other articles that can support that. And then you could download that there. Okay. Quick questions, burning questions around this before I get to the qual.
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
and it has to do with the ethical considerations of using a product like this in terms of research, and I'm sure you know where I'm going, but how do you address plagiarism, bias, and accuracy within this system?
So everything's biased. Systems are biased. We're biased. And it seems like particularly in qualitative, if you want to state your bias, I mean, to me, the answer is transparency. That you'd want to say that you've used this tool to conduct analyses. Okay, you should be editing this document. Okay. You can use the tables, you can use the figures, you can use the accurate interpretation, and so forth, but this should be in your own voice. When it comes to the discussion, you know, I really see this as scaffolding of a discussion chapter. You may want to delete stuff, you may want to add stuff, but certainly you need to edit stuff. That's written in AI. Tools pick up AI writing, same sentence length and things of that sort. So I would say to be transparent about it. And most, you know, there is a continuum of people that are, you know, complete Luddites, which is you cannot use this at all, to, you know, Cal State University system investing $2 million for their own ChatGPT in their system and fully embracing it, and having departments, and then faculty having, you know, oversight over their realm, which is, hey, you know what, this is what I want my students to do or not to do. So there's a wide arc of adoption. AI is not going away. Electricity is not going away. Okay. And they're kind of similar. Okay. They're that powerful. So folks are figuring out how to incorporate this. And I get that. You know, I mean, even in academia, like, well, why do I need to learn how to do research if a tool can help me do the whole thing? What is that advanced thinking that, those are the questions that have to be fed out in academia. For example, in the lit review, when there's syntheses that are finding consistencies, I think students should be asking the questions of, hey, gosh, what are the limits of that? What are the boundaries of that consistency? When does it break down? When it's inconsistent, how would you further ask additional questions to kind of test that? So I think there's things that we could be doing and ways of thinking to keep that critical thinking in there, and really keeping us curious as well. So the short answer is transparency. The longer answer is we're in the infancy stage of how this gets adopted and how things get, really kind of institutionalized, one, but maybe even more importantly, I think, curate to the individual to move them along their own intellectual process. So it's a long answer. Patrick?
Thank you. Okay, I need to be helped here. How do we check or ascertain for the presence of hallucinated material? Especially as you talked about, you mentioned one as an example, looking at a reference that may not be in existence.
Correct.
So that worries me on where did it appear in its analysis stage that actually doesn't exist. So how do I go back to backtrack the hallucinated areas that I can correct?
I mean, so you need to go in and put each one of those references into Google Scholar, okay, and make sure they exist. So it's called a hallucination, and they'll bang them out. They'll, in 2 years, we will not be dealing with this. But at the moment, you have to vet each one of these things. So,
I think I want to clarify again to Patrick, the analysis section where you're running the test, that's not AI at all, and there are no hallucinations there. So nothing is hallucinated there. It's only in that discussion where we incorporate AI.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
thank you for that, Melissa. All right, I want to move along to the qualitative, and from the current slide. So in the qualitative analysis, you can upload transcripts and we can transcribe it for you. You can manually excerpt and manually code and manually thematize, but we also have AI that can do the excerpting, coding, and thematizing. The not only after it codes it, excerpts and codes it, then we can figure out, again, you can tie different codes together manually, or you can say, hey, gosh, let AI figure out how many themes, okay, and which codes go with those themes. And then we have the research question theme rationale, which is doing exactly what that says, which is tying together the research questions and why a particular theme would be answered, why a particular theme would answer that research question or support that research question. And then there's inter-rater reliability. If folks are interested in it, I can talk about it. Okay, so let's get to that. So this is the tool here. Let me see here. So the beginning part of it is you can create a new project or a sample project, put in your name, purpose, theoretical framework. This is going to help with both of these with excerpting from a particular lens. This is probably useful in phenomenological, but not useful in other approaches. Okay. And there's also sample projects we have. Let's see here. Okay, so let's just take one. So here's a client that had lots of participants here. I guess I should have made sure those names were de-identified. Let's get rid of that. Okay. All right. So de-identify your data. So once you have data in there, what I did is I went into the AI tools and maybe let's do this. Let's just do this. Make my life easier. Let's go into a sample project, start from scratch. Okay, here's 4 interviews. So let's just go into the AI tools and inductive coding. So I don't have codes. I'm starting from a blank slate. Let me see what excerpts are important in there. And then I'm going to combine those together. Okay, and then develop a code and a code description for that. And this does take a minute. Okay, so it's found 5 codes and 65 excerpts. We have a place to refine it, but we could just apply them. So here are our interviews. Okay, here's our codes here. You can also then go in and you can add a code manually with a description. Once you add a code manually, you can tie any excerpt to that code. We also have a mode of when you highlight something, but don't know a name for that excerpt. Okay, you can get kind of a hybrid version where you select the excerpt and it will suggest a code name and code description. Okay. You can also, if you have a priori codes, so you have codes with no excerpts, okay, which you can upload over here. You can import. Melissa, we probably need a template handy for them to import. Maybe it's there already. No. So, okay, so we probably need that template there. But you can import code names, okay? Or frankly, you could just add them here, okay? But manually adding the code names there. And then excuse me, then the deductive coding will go and find excerpts that can support that code. That's deductive coding. We also have automatic thematizing. As I mentioned, it does a few things of deciding what is the optimal number of themes. And then, and here it's found 3 of them. You can up that or lower that. And then it will tie particular codes to those themes. So here for a balanced organization, there's the theme name, the suggested theme description, the codes involved with that, and then those supporting excerpts. So in pretty short order, you can get a draft going of excerpts, codes, and themes. You can, of course, add these manually or hybrid versions of them. I think what I want to do now is go back to the other project to show you kind of real life what happens here. So one thing that's useful, I mean, to see a real example. This is the themes that are involved in this project. These are all of the excerpts, participants here. And then here you can see the contribution. So loving this theme where it has lots of participation of participants, but also numerous observations. So this KJ added, 6 excerpts, and DW added 7 and so forth. And then these other kind of themes, you can see the participation and the number of excerpts contributed. Okay. Also, the theme descriptions here. So here, this is the rationale, which is I taught using this functionality here for this research question. You can use AI to suggest which themes go with it. I like to endorse all of them, and then I'll just edit it later. So I want all the rationales for each theme with that research question. And that's what I did here. So here's the research question, and then here's the first theme, and here's a rationale for why that theme goes with that research question. Here's a second research question, and here's the rationale of why this theme goes with this research question, and so forth. And I did that for each research question.
Okay, Jim, I have a question, if I may.
Please.
I think this is great. I like the tools. Are there PDF resources to accompany a lot of what you're doing? I know you have video tutorials and those sorts of things, but are there PDFs that are available to support faculty in this process?
No, but we should make them.
There
Melissa?
are, there's getting
Okay.
started guides,
Okay.
and other resources. I attached the getting started guides and I'll send them again with this recording too, so you have them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But maybe a PDF for each one of those, each one of the functions though, or is that all in that
Yeah.
getting started guide?
If you click the question, there's a whole knowledge center as well. And there's guidance there around all the different functions too.
Okay, so awesome. So how to create a project. Okay. So all of these could be in PDF form as well, probably. Statistics help me go back to here. I think I got out of my. Okay, support home. This is the support for the entire, for all of them. Okay, so, but those question marks do have that. Okay. Let's get there. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back, so I talked about the rationales. Then I do a deep dive of each theme. And when I do that, here are the themes, okay? And again, I like to check all of the excerpts and then just edit them out after, because I don't really have a great view of which ones are optimal for that theme. I would say check them all. And what you get, oops. What you get is the theme name, okay? The theme description that you can edit, the code or codes involved, and then all the excerpts. I would just say, you know, when you have something like this that has 30 excerpts, you don't need 30 excerpts. You probably need 5 excerpts, but Renee, you can school me. My protocol is, you know, 3 to 5 great excerpts, ideally from different people.
Agreed.
Okay, all right. So thanks for that validation, because I typically don't ask. I just, here I am sharing Jim Lanny's way, but it's like, okay. So and a lot of them have, you know, many more excerpts. So you know, just get some rich ones that when people read them, they would say, ah, that ties to that theme. That's particularly important if you do integrated reliability, where folks are doing a matching task between the excerpts and then tying them to which excerpts go with that theme. Okay, so, or rather the other way, looking at the excerpts and tying the theme to that. So, you know, be judicious when you do that. And then this is all downloaded into an editable Word document. All right. Other questions about this, the qualitative, and then I'll share what's upcoming. Okay. So what's upcoming is just like we have in the statistics discussion draft, We have a qualitative discussion draft coming. So that's one thing. So that's really gonna be fleshing out, you know, qual and quant 4 and 5. The lit review, the next fish to fry is gonna be the methodology and then an introduction. And then in 26, I look forward to getting into grant reviews, helping with grant supports and grant writing. So those are kind of what's happening for the, I'll say, dissertation research arc between now and maybe the first quarter. And then the grant support thereafter. So that is what's coming. I should give some of this as well. Some contact information. Anyone can schedule with me 15 minutes by that QR code. Samantha really helps students. So she's the contact to get with her to get with me. Ashley certainly helps around faculty with demos and trials and courseware and other things. Melissa, institutional support, availability for other kinds of presentations. Our phone number. The website's going to be changing in a couple of weeks into Statistics Solutions is kind of a quant website, but all of the apps, all the apps will be on one website. So, final thoughts, questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone attending on Saturday morning. Patrick, I have no idea what time it is out there. What time is it out there?
It is 6:51, so 90 minutes to 7 p.m.
PM. All right. Well, thank you for joining on your early Saturday evening, and thanks everyone for your questions and participation, and happy to talk to any of you again.
Thanks, Jim. This was great.
Terrific.
Thank you.
All right. Bye all. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Take care, Jim.
Bye-bye. Thank you.